The foundation and rise of the Ottoman Empire is the period that started with the weakening of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum in the very early 14th century and ended with the fall of Constantinople on May 29, 1453. The rise of the Ottomans correlates with the decline of the Byzantine Empire, which generated the shift in power from a singular Christian European society to an Islamic influence. The beginning of this period was characterized by the Byzantine-Ottoman Wars, which lasted for a century and a half. During this period, the Ottoman Empire gained control of both Anatolia and the Balkans. Immediately after the establishment of the Anatolian Beyliks, some Turkic principalities united with the Ottomans against the Byzantine Empire. This period also witnessed the Sultanate of Rum's defeat by the Mongols in the 14th century and was followed by the growth of the Ottoman Empire, a period referred to as Pax Ottomana. The economic and social stability attained in the conquered provinces of the Ottoman Empire, by some historians, Anatolia before the rule of the Ottomans. The origins of the Ottomans can be traced back to the late 11th century when a few small Muslim emirates of Turkic origins and Ghazi nature, called Beyliks, started to be founded in different parts of Anatolia. Their main role was to defend Seljuk border areas with the Byzantine Empire, a role reinforced by the migration of many Turks to Asia Minor. However, in 1073 and following the victory of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum over the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert, Beyliks sought an opportunity to override the Seljuk authority and declare their own sovereignty openly. While the Byzantine Empire was to continue for nearly another 4 centuries, and the Crusades would contest the issue for some time, the victory at Manzikert signaled the beginning of Turkic ascendancy in Anatolia. The subsequent weakening of the Byzantine Empire and the political rivalry between the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum and the Fatimids in Egypt in southern Syria were the main factors that helped the Beyliks take advantage of the situation and unite their principalities. Among those principalities was a principality called Sogut, founded and led by Ertugrul, which settled in the river valley of Sakarya. When Ertugrul died in 1281, his son Osman became his successor. Shortly thereafter, Osman declared himself a sultan and established the Ottoman dynasty, becoming the first sultan of the Ottoman Empire in 1299. Osman I. The reign of Osman I marks the official beginning of the rule of the Ottoman dynasty, which lasted for 6 centuries. In 1265 the Byzantine city the Bayezid, Sogut in Turkish, fell to Osman I. It was the first of many cities and villages captured by the Ottoman Turks during the 1300s and 1310s. Osman also conquered some of the nearby Turkish emirates and tribes. During the late 1310s Osman I laid siege to several important Byzantine forts. Yenisei'ir was captured and with it as a base the Turks could lay siege to Prusa and Nicaea, the largest Byzantine cities in Anatolia. Bursa fell in 1326, just before Osman's death. See also, Battle of Baphius, Siege of Bursa. Orhan, the son of Osman, Orhan I conquered Nicaea in 1331 and Nicomedia in 1337 and established the capital in Bursa. During Orhan's reign the empire was organized as a state with a new currency, government and a modernized army. Orhan married Theodora, the daughter of Byzantine Prince John VI Count Aquinas. In 1346 Orhan openly supported John VI in the overthrowing of the Emperor John V Palaeologus. When John VI became co-emperor he allowed Orhan to raid the peninsula of Gallipoli, which gained the Ottomans their first stronghold in Europe. Orhan decided to pursue war against Europe. Anatolian Turks were settled in and around Gallipoli to secure it as a springboard for military operations in Thrace against the Byzantines and Bulgarians. Most of eastern Thrace was overrun by Ottoman forces within a decade and permanently brought under Orhan's control by means of heavy colonization. The initial Thracian conquest placed the Ottomans strategically astride all of the major overland communication routes linking Constantinople to the Balkans frontiers, facilitating their expanded military operations. Lane addition. Control of the highways in Thrace isolated Byzantium from direct overland contact with any of its potential allies in the Balkans or in Western Europe. Byzantine Emperor John V was forced to sign an unfavorable treaty with Orhan in 1356 that recognized his Thracian losses. See also Battle of Peloponnesus, Siege of Nicaea, Siege of Nicomedia. Murad I. Soon after Orhan's death in 1362, Murad I became the Sultan. Edian, 1362. Murad's first major offensive was the conquest of the Byzantine city of Adrianople in 1362. He renamed it to Edian and made it his new capital in 1363. By transferring his capital from Bursa in Anatolia to that newly won city in Thrace, Murad signaled his intentions to continue Ottoman expansion in Southeast Europe. Before the conquest of Edian, most Christian Europeans regarded the Ottoman presence in Thrace as merely the latest unpleasant episode in a long string of chaotic events in the Balkans. After Murad I designated Edian as his capital, they realized that the Ottomans intended to remain in Europe. The Balkan states of Byzantium, Bulgaria, and Serbia were fearful of the Ottomans' conquest in Thrace, and were ill-prepared to deal with the threat. Byzantium's territory was fragmented mostly among the capital at Constantinople and its Thracian environs, the city of Thessaloniki and its immediate surroundings, and the Despotate of the Morea in the Peloponnese. Contact between Constantinople and the two other regions was possible only by means of a tenuous sea route through the Dardanelles, kept open by the Italian maritime powers of Venice and Genoa. The weakened Byzantine Empire no longer possessed the resources to defeat Murad on its own, and concerted action on the part of the Byzantines, often divided by civil war, was impossible. The survival of Constantinople itself depended on its legendary defensive walls, the lack of an Ottoman navy, and the willingness of Murad to honor provisions in the 1356 treaty permitting the city to be provisioned. Bulgaria under Tsar Ivan Alexander was in decline. To consolidate his authority over as much territory as possible, he divided the state into three appanages held by his sons. Bulgaria's cohesion was shattered further in the 1350s by a rivalry between the holder of Edene, Ivan Stratimir, Ivan Alexander's sole surviving son by his first wife, and Ivan Shishman, the product of Alexander's second marriage and the Tsar's designated successor. In addition to internal problems, Bulgaria was further crippled by Hungarian attack. In 1365, Hungarian King Louis I invaded and seized Vidin province, whose ruler Stratimir was taken captive. Despite the concurrent loss of most Bulgarian Thracian holdings to Murad, Ivan Alexander became fixated on the Hungarians in Vidin. He formed a coalition against them with Dobrodzan ruler Dobrotica and voivode Vladislav I Vlaicu of Wallachia. Although the Hungarians were repulsed and Stratimir was restored to his throne, Bulgaria emerged more intensely divided than previously. Stratimir proclaimed himself Tsar of an Empire of Edene in 1370, and Dobrotica received de facto recognition as independent despot in Dobruja. Bulgaria's efforts were squandered to little domestic purpose and against the wrong enemy. Given Serbia's preeminence in the Balkans under Tsar Stephen Dusan, its rapid dissolution following his death in 1355 was dramatic. The powerful regional Serb nobles demonstrated little respect for his successor, Stefan Uras V. Young, weak, and perhaps mentally handicapped, Uras was incapable of ruling as his father had. The separatist-minded Bojars were quick to take advantage of the situation, and Serbia fragmented. First to throw off Serbian control were the Greek provinces of Thessaly and Epirus as well as Dusan's former Albanian holdings. A series of small independent principalities arose in western and southern Macedonia, while the Hungarians encroached deeper into Serb lands in the north. Eurus held only the core Serbian lands, whose nobles, although more powerful than their prince, generally remained loyal. These core lands consisted of the western lands, including Montenegro, the southern lands, held by Jovan Ugljesa in Sarres, encompassing all of eastern Macedonia, and the central Serbian lands, stretching from the Danube south into central Macedonia, co-ruled by Eurus and the powerful noble Vukašin Mrnjavčević, who held Prilep in Macedonia. Far from preserving Serb unity, Eurus's loosely amalgamated domains were racked by constant civil war among the regional nobles, leaving Serbia vulnerable to the rising Ottoman threat. Murad I did rise to the power of the Ottoman Empire in 1362. Gallipoli, 1366 by 1370 Murad controlled most of Thrace, bringing him into direct contact with Bulgaria and the southeastern Serbian lands ruled by Ugljesa. Ugljesa, the most powerful Serb regional ruler, unsuccessfully attempted to forge an anti-Ottoman alliance of Balkan states in 1371. Byzantium, vulnerable to the Turks because of its food supply situation, refused to cooperate. Bulgaria, following Ivan Alexander's death early that year, lay officially divided into the Empire of Aden, ruled by Stratimir, and Alexander's direct successor Tsar Ivan Shishman, who ruled central Bulgaria from Turnovo. Young, his hold on the throne unsteady, threatened by Stratimir, and probably pressured by the Turks, Shishman could not afford to participate in Ugljesa's scheme. Of the regional Serb Bojars, only Vukašin, protector of Eurus and Ugljesa's brother, joined in the effort. The others either failed to recognize the Ottoman danger or refused to participate, lest competitors attacked while they were in the field. Maritza, 1371. The Battle of Maritza took place at the Maritza River near the village of Chernoman on September 26. 1371, with Sultan Murad's lieutenant Lala Shahin Pasha and the Serbs numbering some 70,000 men under the command of the Serbian king of Prilep Vukašin Mrnjavčević and his brother Despot Ugljesa. Despot Ugljesa wanted to make a surprise attack in the capital city, Edirne, while Murad I was in Asia Minor. The Ottoman army was much smaller, but due to superior tactics, Shahin Pasha was able to defeat the Christian army and kill King Vukašin and Despot Ugljesa. Macedonia and parts of Greece fell under Ottoman power after this battle. Both Ugljesa and Vukašin perished in the carnage. So overwhelming was the Ottoman victory that the Turks referred to the battle as the rout of the Serbs. What little unity Serbia possessed collapsed after the catastrophe at Ormenion. Eurus died before the year was out, ending the Nemanjić dynasty, and large areas of central Serbia broke away as independent principalities, reducing it to half of its former size. No future ruler ever again officially held the office of Kar, and no single boyar enjoyed enough power or respect to gain recognition as a unifying leader. Vukašin's son Marko, who survived the slaughter, proclaimed himself Serbian king, but was unable to make good on his claim outside of his lands around Prilep in central Macedonia. Serbia slipped into accelerated fragmentation and internecine warfare among the proliferating regional princes. In the aftermath of the Ormenion battle, Ottoman raids into Serbia and Bulgaria intensified. The enormity of the victory and the incessant raids into his lands convinced Turnovo Bulgarian Tsar Shishman of the necessity for coming to terms with the Ottomans. By 1376 at the latest, Shishman accepted vassal status under Murad and sent his sister as the Sultan's wife to the harem at Edirne. The arrangement did not prevent Ottoman raiders from continuing to plunder inside of Shishman's borders. As for Byzantium, Emperor John V definitively accepted Ottoman vassalage soon after the battle, opening the door to Murad's direct interference in Byzantine domestic politics. The Bulgarians and Serbs enjoyed a brief respite during the 1370s and into the 1380s when matters in Anatolia and increased meddling in Byzantium's political affairs kept Murad preoccupied. In Serbia, the lull permitted the northern Serb boyar, Prince Lazar Rebeljanovich, with the support of powerful Bulgarian and Montenegrin nobles and the backing of the Serbian Orthodox Patriarchate of Peć, to consolidate control over much of the core Serbian lands. Most of the Serb regional rulers in Macedonia, including Marko, accepted vassalage under Murad to preserve their positions, and many of them led Serb forces in the Sultan's army operating in Anatolia against his Turkish rivals. Dubrovnika, 1381. By the mid-1380s, Murad's attention once again focused on the Balkans, with his Bulgarian vassal Shishman preoccupied by a war with Wallachian voivode Danai of Wallachia. In 1385, Murad took Sofia, the last remaining Bulgarian possession south of the Balkan Mountains, opening the way towards strategically located Nis, the northern terminus of the important Vardar-Morava highway. Saurian Field, 1385. Savra field battle was fought on 18 September 1385 between Ottoman and Serbian forces. The Ottomans were victorious and most of the local Serbian and Albanian lords became vassals. Pločnik, 1386. Murad captured Nis in 1386, perhaps forcing Lazar of Serbia to accept Ottoman vassalage soon afterward. While he pushed deeper into the north, central Balkans, Murad also had forces moving west along the Via Ingatia into Macedonia, forcing vassal status on regional rulers who until that time had escaped that fate. One contingent reached the Albanian Adriatic coast in 1385, another took and occupied Thessaloniki in 1387. The danger to the continued independence of the Balkan Christian states grew alarmingly apparent when Anatolian affairs forced Murad to leave the Balkans in 1387. His Serbian and Bulgarian vassals attempted to sever their ties to him. Lazar formed a coalition with Tvrtkoi of Bosnia and Stratsimir of Vidin. After he refused an Ottoman demand that he live up to his vassal obligations, troops were dispatched against him. Lazar and Tvrtko met the Turks and defeated them at Pločnik, west of Nis. The victory by his fellow Christian princes encouraged Shishman to shed Ottoman vassalage and reassert Bulgarian independence. Bilika, 1388. Murad returned from Anatolia in 1388 and launched a lightning campaign against the Bulgarian rulers Shishman and Stratsimir, who swiftly were forced into vassal submission. He then demanded that Lazar proclaim his vassalage and pay tribute. Confident because of the victory at Pločnik, the Serbian prince refused and turned to Tvrtko of Bosnia and Vuk Branković, his son-in-law and independent ruler of northern Macedonia and Kosovo, for aid against the certain Ottoman retaliatory offensive. Kosovo, 1389. On St. Vitus Day, June 15, 1389, the Ottoman army personally commanded by Sultan Murad fought the Serbian army led by Serbian Prince Lazar Rebeljanovich, which also included contingents led by Vuk Branković, and a contingent sent from Bosnia by King Tvrtko I, commanded by Vlatko Vuković. Estimates vary of how large the armies were, with the Ottomans having greater numbers than the Orthodox army. The bulk of both armies were wiped out in the battle. Both Lazar and Murad lost their lives in it. Although Ottomans managed to annihilate the Serbian army, they also suffered high casualties which delayed their progress. Serbs were left with too few men to effectively defend their lands, while the Turks had many more troops in the east. Consequently, one after the other, the Serbian principalities that were not already Ottoman vassals became so in the following years. The result of the battle was a draw. The Battle of Kosovo is particularly important to Serbian history, tradition, and national identity. Lazar's young and weak successor Stefan Lazarevich concluded a vassal agreement with Bayezid in 1390 to counter Hungarian moves into northern Serbia, while Vuk Branković, the last independent Serb prince, held out until 1392.